Welcome to Athletes Lives Network exclusive interviews. Today our guest is Jermaine Fears, standout wide receiver at East Chicago Central High School, St. Francis University located in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he currently plays semi-pro football for the Noble County Wolfpack. Jermaine talks about growing up in the city of Chicago, the pressures of being an athlete in the city of Chicago, his college days at St. Francis, and what he's currently doing now. Check it out. Once an athlete, always an athlete. Welcome to Athletes Lives Network. Today our guest is Jermaine Fears, standout wide receiver at East Chicago Central High School, St. Francis University, and currently playing semi-pro football for the Noble County Wolfpack. How you doing, Jermaine?
I'm good.
Hey man, I want to thank you for being on our website. Basically, man, what we want to get to from you today is just your history in sports, growing up in the city of Chicago, the pressures of being an athlete there, your college experiences, your actual pro experiences now, and then what you're currently doing in your life now. All right. So basically, just go ahead and tell us about your growing up in East Chicago.
Well, basically growing up in East Chicago, man, some people say it's a lot rougher than other places, and some people say it's not that bad. It's all about who you pretty much hang around and what you set yourself out to be. It's a lot of paths that everybody could choose, but you kind of lead by what you was actually, I guess you could say, brought up around, and what you want for yourself. You want something better, and I kind of just chose to do sports.
Okay.
That's kind of how I went.
So growing up in Chicago, a ton of athletes. When you was younger, you actually played basketball first, right?
Actually, when I was younger, I actually started playing baseball, believe it or not.
Okay.
Most people don't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though I lived in East Chicago, I started out playing minor league baseball actually in Garrett. My dad was a coach, and that's when I started out at the age of 5. And you were actually supposed to start at 6. I didn't never play T-ball. I actually went straight to minor leagues, and that's kind of because my dad was a coach, so he kind of pulled some strings on that. But that was actually the first sport I actually ever played, and then came basketball.
Okay. So, growing up, who inspired you to actually get into sports? I know you got 2 other brothers, right?
Actually, 3 older brothers.
3 older, okay.
I would have to say it would be my oldest brother, Al. Most people know him from the E.C. Roosevelt days.
Yeah.
Nickname was Big Train.
Great basketball player.
Yeah, he was a big force on the basketball court. That was my biggest inspiration. I kind of followed in his footsteps somewhat because baseball was kind of his first love starting out too, but his size and his athletic ability on the basketball court kind of over-exceeded his first love.
Okay. So your brothers and Al was a big motivation to you. What peers motivated you as an athlete growing up?
I would have to say the guys that was my age, Chris Woods would probably be one of the main guys, just because me and him kind of grew up together. He actually stayed 2 blocks over from me, but once we was real little, I remember the days when we had I had a Knight Rider car, and he had I think it was a Bigfoot truck, and we used to race and stuff like that, and that's kind of what fired my competitive edge, and that kind of carried over as we got older.
Okay. So now you're going to East Chicago, playing basketball, summer leagues, school ball at Westside, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of go into that and kind of let us know your experiences with that.
Well, my first experience was actually, I would say, a learning experience, and that was actually elementary. Growing up, our basketball team, we had a great deal of talent. And basketball, like I said, was one of my first sports. I was actually very athletic, and I was one of those hustler type players, but I lacked a lot of the fundamentals. And when it came to 6th grade basketball trials, I was actually one of the people that got cut. And that right there took me to heart. I made sure that would never happen again.
Yeah.
And I worked hard, that whole school year and that whole summer to make sure when 7th grade and junior high came that wouldn't happen.
Okay. So now we passed up middle school. Now we're going to high school now. Freshman to high school. Tell us your decision on when you started thinking about playing football.
That actually sparked, I would say, that 8th grade year, at the end of the 8th grade year. Me, Chris Browder, Deesky, Big Everett, we was all leaving the 8th grade, going into the 9th, we was talking about, you know, how we was gonna have a nice group of freshmen that was gonna come in for high school, and everybody was talking about what position they wanted to play, and that kind of really sparked my interest, you know, to play football, because I knew I wasn't the biggest guy, but I was a tall, lanky guy that was athletic, and I always had good hands, so I was definitely really willing to put my skills to the test and see where I was at.
Okay. Now you played your freshman year, played your sophomore year, and then junior year, which is my senior year, there's no Jermaine Fears. What happened?
Well, that right there is what I would call one of the most, I wouldn't say the most, but I would say that was probably one of the baddest decisions I made in high school. I decided not to play based off of, you know, poor judgment. I had a coach that was pushing me in the summertime, you know, to work harder on my game and get myself better as far as football went. And I kind of used that in the reverse because, you know, I wasn't used to a coach being on me like that. And this coach was actually Coach Tom. I don't know if some of the old EC Central players might remember who he is.
Oh, yeah. You
know, and he kind of took me as a slacker player because I was kind of talking to some basketball players, you know, in the weight room after I had done my workout. And we kind of got into it and exchanged words, and I took the shorter road and decided not to play just because of that. And I think that was not a good decision to make.
Now, come your senior year, just kind of let us know your thoughts, and you decided to come back and play football, right?
Yeah, I decided to come back, man. Senior year, I knew we had a up and coming, you know, great talent at quarterback in Keon Frazier, and you know, me playing wide receiver and us not having many wide receivers in the upper class position. Actually, we really only had one, and that was actually Chris Broughton, which we kind of mainly used him at halfback. So he really wasn't ideally just a receiver. We kind of used him more so at halfback than anything. I thought that was a great opportunity for me because they had a lot of underclassmen they had to step up. So, you know, once my senior year came, I actually put in a lot of work. My best friend actually was Tommy Signars. He was actually a junior when I was a senior. Me and him did a lot of working out together that summer before my senior year. And actually, me and him actually became the number 1 and number 2 receivers that year.
So tell us about your experience playing with Keon Frazier, a guy that can get the ball on any routes, great arm, great athlete.
I honestly would say, man, I was more surprised at his ability, you know, to do the things he do on the field, because, you know, when you sit back and watch a guy and play with a guy, it gives you a whole different aspect of the game from one individual in a position. And he's one of those type of players that he'll make the plays if he's given the right calls to make, and, you know, the right individuals. A lot of times, you know, we ran an offense where the decisions was actually all made on him. You know, he would even tell us what routes to run. We would just pretty much line up in a formation, and that was something Coach Richards loved to do because he knew Keon would make those reads.
Gotcha. So give us your mind state on what you want to accomplish your senior year, because I know you missed your whole junior season. Now you're on the field with great athletes, Chris Broughton, Tommy Signars, Keon. So go into your mind state.
Well, my whole thing was I didn't want to come in as a, you know, since I'm a senior, I'm gonna come in and try to be a leader or anything like that. You know, our leaders as far as team captain stuff was already established. What I did was found my role and accepted my role. You know, I was more so what you would call a field general on offense. So Coach used me, you know, when he needed me most. If it was certain short down yardage on third down plays, I was more so a possession receiver, but I also was one that would read the defense a lot of times and let them know what kind of coverages they're lined up in, if they're playing man, if they're playing zone, and what kind of blitzes we're seeing. So that was the role that I played, and I accepted that role.
Okay. So how did you guys finish your senior season?
You know, this is the first time I've talked about this since '98. You know, our senior season was definitely not what we looked out for it to be. You know, that sectional game that we played in, man, it was a rough one. It was a rainy one. We actually was right in the game, and I don't know if most people remember this, but it came down to one last play, and Keon Frazier actually scrambled, broke like 2 tackles, and found some kind of way to get open. And I was down the field, and my guy failed. So I was wide open, and he threw it farther than my long strides could take me. But I mean, I tried everything in my power, and all I heard was everybody yell, "Keep running, keep running, keep running." And I just ended up diving for it, and it hit me dead in the hands and fall, and it fell straight to the ground. And that's the last one. The last experience I had in senior year of football, man.
Drop the ball.
Yeah.
After that experience, what came to your mind then?
Well, I was more so disappointed in myself because, you know, I think if I really kept running like everybody would have said, I probably would have caught that pass. But you know, one play you really can't blame a win or a loss on one play. But what I learned from that is, man, you know, you really got to give it your all. When they say from snap to whistle, you got to do that, man. You can't look back on just one play and say, if I'd have just did this one thing different then, you know, that would have made a difference for a game.